Welcome to this week's edition of Keeping an Eye on the Geopolitical Ball. This is Jamie Shea, Senior Fellow at Friends of Europe here in Brussels. Most school children, at least when I was at school in the United Kingdom back in the 60s, when they learned about the Western Balkans, came across the famous phrase of Winston Churchill, which was that the problem with the Balkans is that they produced more history than they consumed. The Balkans seemed to be bad news. And this was certainly the case in the 1990s, when for nearly a decade, Yugoslavia collapsed in a series of brutal ethnic conflicts, first in Slovenia, then in Croatia, and in Bosnia, and finally in what today we call North Macedonia, passing through Kosovo, at that time a province of Serbia, along the way. These conflicts produced in Bosnia over 100,000 dead, over 2 million displaced, and in Kosovo 13,000 dead. But since the end of those conflicts and since the turn of the century, the region has been doing much better. Many countries have joined NATO, most recently North Macedonia. Slovenia and Croatia have joined the European Union, with today Montenegro and Serbia waiting in the wings. And good news for Albania and North Macedonia, they were recently given the green light by European leaders to start their accession negotiations as well. But there's still one searing political dispute in the region, which is holding back progress and particularly economic and political recovery. That is the refusal of Serbia to recognize Kosovo, its former province, which declared its independence in 2008, and which has been recognized by over 100 countries in the world since. The non-recognition by Serbia has meant that other countries, particularly in the European Union, have also refused to recognize Kosovo, and Serbia's former historical partner and today large trading partner, Russia, is backing Serbia. This has not only led to a great deal of antagonism between Serbia and Kosovo and held back the normalization of their relations, but it's also produced, for example, in the United Nations, a campaign by Serbia and Russia to keep Kosovo out of international organizations. Its bid to join the police organization Interpol has failed twice, and even to put pressure on certain countries which have recognized Kosovo to take back that recognition, similar to what China has for many years been doing with Taiwan. Now, this dispute on recognition has severe consequences. The first thing, of course, is that it means that the situation of the Serb minority living in the north of Kosovo still remains in question. Number two, it's led Kosovo to express anger for nearly a year until recently by imposing a 100% tariff on Serb imports into the country. It's created a legal vacuum which has held back, of course, international investors, and it's even produced the attempt to find a quick fix solution, like the recent proposal of the Serb President Vučić and the Kosovo President Thaci to have a land swap, whereby the Serb areas of northern Kosovo would join Serbia, and in return Kosovo would obtain territory of Serbia inhabited by ethnic Albanians in the Presovo Valley. I must say that I don't believe for 1 minute in these land swap ideas, because they are always very difficult to resolve to the satisfaction of every village and every community. And secondly, they imply that the only future for Kosovo and Serbia is in mono-ethnic states, whereas the European model is multinational, multi-ethnic states which promote liberalism and tolerance. So how are we going to find a way forward? Well, recently, the United States has offered to host talks in Washington with Presidents Thaci and Vučić. Vučić has just been re-elected in Serbia with a big majority, and hopefully on that basis, he would be able now to show statesmanship and move, no matter how difficult it may be for his compatriots, on the issue of the recognition of Kosovo. I certainly believe that the EU should not admit Serbia as a full member until it has resolved its issues with Kosovo, and also made it clear that it will not itself block Kosovo's accession to the EU later on when it meets the terms and conditions. Unfortunately, the Washington summit was not able to take place last weekend because the Special Criminal Tribunal for Kosovo in The Hague has indicated its intention, or at least the prosecutor's intention, to proceed with the indictment of President Thatcher for war crimes. That said, I hope that the momentum will not be lost, because this would be the first time in 19 months that Kosovo and Serbia would meet and speak together. President Macron of France, together with Germany, has offered to host the talks in Paris instead, and the European Union, which has been conducting talks between Belgrade and Pristina for some time, could step into the vacuum, first on the economic issues like telecommunications and customs and investment, and proceeding to the more political issues later on. Recently, the agreement on the name of North Macedonia, finally, after 20 years, settled between Greece and North Macedonia, shows that statesmanship, even in a complicated region such as the Western Balkans, is still possible and can make progress. So let's hope the Kosovars and the Serbs can take encouragement from their southern neighbors and show a little statesmanship too. Thank you very much for following me today. Look forward to engaging with you again next week.